Welcome back to the TrainCare facility. So I've talked about loneliness before in the context of intimacy and relationships, and that video definitely helped me get a lot of stuff off my chest at the time, but something which I never really got to cover and I feel is also important to discuss is platonic loneliness. This is something which I've struggled with at various times in my own life and which I know a lot of other people have struggled with, but for different reasons, and that's something I really want to get into because I think having friends and companionship is something which many of us just take for granted, probably myself included these days. I mean, I can count myself lucky that I have a decent support network of people, but of course not everyone does necessarily have someone whom they can turn to, whether that be in their darkest hour or just to share their experiences with and have a good time with. I haven't always been this fortunate. Back when I was at school, I was the weird autistic one with no social skills who never got invited to any parties, and for a while I had a really rough time with that. I remember how much it used to hurt and how I used to get kind of bitter and resentful when I'd see pictures of the other kids round each other's houses and stuff on social media, and feeling like I was excluded and couldn't get to be part of that. One particular memory I have from when I first started sixth form is that a bunch of like the popular kids were going to have a party at someone's house, and because it was snowing really bad it ended up getting cancelled, but I was actually like rooting for the snow, willing the snow on, because I wanted the party to be cancelled. It sounds stupid and petty now, but that's how resentful I was back then. Now I've come to realise that none of those people probably intended to hurt me, like they probably didn't even realise they were hurting me. It's more that they just didn't really know how to take me. As I said, I basically had no social skills back then, and it's not reasonable to expect people to be friends with you when you can't even initiate or hold a proper conversation with them. The other thing I've learnt since is that the popular crowds in schools tend to be very fleeting anyway, because a lot of those friendships are very superficial by their nature, whereas the handful of friends I did eventually make towards the end of my time at college are people who are still in my life today. Same with those I met later on at university. I've also been lucky to meet friends through various online circles that I've been part of, including some people who've appeared on this YouTube channel like Patrex and the Jaded Oddity. The funny thing is I actually first met the Jaded Oddity through a group for YouTube content creators way back when I'd just started at uni, and we've been messaging each other on and off for going on about 10 years now. Of all the people I knew back then, they are probably not someone whom I would have predicted to still be in my life now, but it's funny how these things work out, because you know, you get some friends who you get really close to and then for whatever reason you just drift apart and eventually lose contact with them, and I've had that happen as well. Which leads on to my next point and the other main focus of this video, which is how you can experience loneliness as you get older. Because I think there's a societal expectation that at some point in your life you're going to meet someone monogamous who you're going to settle down with and get married and get a mortgage with and have kids, get a dog, all those kinds of things. And when that does happen, that then becomes your life essentially. You don't really go out and socialise anymore, or at least not as often. They say when you're in your early 20s your friends are like your found family, but what about when they go off and start their own families? What about those who aren't ready to do that and who may not even be in a position to do that, and so they get left behind? It's not necessarily been so much of a problem for myself, as I've always been in circles, be it online or whatever, where I've been able to meet new people. But if you are an older person who doesn't use the internet or social media sites, then it can be very difficult getting the opportunity to meet anyone. I remember from when I used to volunteer with Age UK that loneliness is actually something which a lot of older people have to contend with, and indeed I have a close family member who has struggled with this as well. Because really, what are your options? You could go out to your local pub if there is one nearby, but not everyone is into that. I personally rarely ever drink or go out in bars or pubs. As an autistic person, it's not a very friendly environment for me. Or you can go to your local town hall or whatever and do coffee mornings, but you know, most older people don't like to think of themselves as actually being old or do the kind of things that elderly people stereotypically do, so there's also that. And so this is something I really wanted to raise awareness of, because as human beings we are social creatures, and as I said, so many of us take it for granted. If there is a conclusion to this, then it would be that if you have an older person in your life, like say a relative or someone who has perhaps been widowed, then provided you have a good relationship with them of course, try and take some time out of your life to be there for that person. Give them someone to talk to. because while you're out socializing with your friends or with your partner, they might not have anyone. And as I like to say at the end of all of these videos, we are all valid and we are all in this together. And that means we should all get to have someone to share our lives and our experiences with.